Can we start?
Go. Yep.
Okay. Hello and good morning, everyone, to this lunch and learn session presented by Pyramid Analytics to you. Today, we're going to talk about decision intelligence. Are you ready for what's coming? And before we start and get directly into the topic, I would like to introduce myself and my colleague. My name is Benjamin Derwald. I'm the Vice President for the DACH and Nordics market at Pyramid Analytics. And with me today is my dear colleague, Patrick Ebert, Global Technical Alliance Manager. What Patrick is going to do, he's definitely going to show you some insights on our decision intelligence platform later on during this session. So, decision intelligence, are you ready for what's coming? And I would like to take it from another angle than just the technology angle. Right now, we all know transparency is more important than ever. So, yeah, no surprise, we do have the global pandemic. Everybody is aware of that, but the more recent lockdown in Shanghai has already put significant pressure on supply chain and logistics operations all around the globe. The next thing that we all see permanently in the news is actually delivery issues and are actually delays when it comes to, for instance, new vehicles, new machineries or parts that led to out of stock situations, to actually shortage when it comes to drivers as well. But we also have repair backlogs, which is actually quite a significant problem for the companies out there. So it's not only winning the new customers, which you currently, or a lot of companies currently can't serve because they don't have the parts or they don't have enough goods on their shelves. It's also serving the ones that are already your loyal customers, and they, for instance, have a maintenance or a part that just broke in their machinery or on their car. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who is waiting for his new electric car, and he got a call from his local dealer, and the problem was that actually the car is almost ready, but there are two wires missing, and that is the reason why they can't deliver it. So that is definitely a huge threat at the moment. And then to top that off, we also have another very dramatic situation. We have a war in the middle of Europe. The war in Ukraine is really threatening not only the millions and millions of people over there in the Ukraine, but also a lot of the companies all around the globe do have parts that they are relying on or raw materials they're relying on that are coming from Ukraine. And that, of course, is definitely having some consequences. So I just had a conversation with a colleague of mine who is in a consulting company, actually doing advisory services to board members. And that friend told me about that actually currently they predict that more and more companies will go near shore with their production to make sure that they don't run into this significant shortage and actually have to cut down shifts or actually to stop their production. And this is actually the environment we are dealing with right now. And to make decisions on all this under all these circumstances, including the skyrocket prices on raw materials at the moment, you definitely need transparency. You need to understand actually which customers to serve first, where do you have still goods that you can use for these productions, and which suppliers are at high risk not to be able to deliver to you because they are, for instance, depending on some goods that are coming from Ukraine. All these kind of things are definitely the circumstances you as a company are dealing with at the moment. Another thing that comes into that is actually that a lot of companies to the beginning of the pandemic, and I just recall a huge car manufacturer here in Germany, more in the northern part of Germany, that spent really a lot of time and a lot of consulting time on their supply chain resilience, but they just figured out that they weren't resilient enough because the war situation wasn't calculated into that scenario. So they again have a tremendous threat on the current situation. So coming from that, saying transparency is super important, actually more important than ever, because it's not only about increasing margins, it's actually a lot of companies are in survival mode. So how can we deal with that? Then if we look at that and we face this situation inside the organization, the increase of adoption of data and analytics is still a challenge for those companies. So according to the latest McKinsey report, there is this 20% challenge. So some people of the organization have access to data and insights, but they have access to some of the data and they use some of the analytics. And I recall just a conversation that I had 48 hours ago with the CIO of a Fortune 500 company. He didn't want it to be named here. He said, Ben, historically, the challenge is in our industry, we have too many siloed systems. And yes, of course, we were aware of that. And we are on the way to actually migrate systems. But actually, that makes it very, very difficult to achieve the goal of, for instance, a customer-centric approach where we can see, okay, that customer satisfaction is at risk, right? So there's a lot of integration and effort required to achieve that goal. And I said, absolutely, yes, that's absolutely right with the approach that your company has chosen. And that approach is definitely, there is a solution for the data preparation part, which is run by the IT department. And there is, of course, some corporate reporting run by the Business Intelligence Competence Center, the BIDCC department. But there is also the self-service part, the analytics part, and that is more run by the business. So bringing all that together with all these siloed systems is, of course, a multi-year project when you're thinking of this approach that his company has chosen. So, but there is definitely a different answer to that, and that is having a robust, sophisticated platform that actually makes it easier to directly connect to all these various siloed systems and bring that data on a platform where everyone in the organization can actually access the data, of course, according to the security rules and to whatever data they are allowed to see, but everything that affects their local business, their local decision making should be usable for them. And that is going from a standardized report that they're using up to a very sophisticated analytical question. And then the next question is, how do you equip people with more analytic capabilities without sending them to a training or a university for another year? And that is where the artificial intelligence part comes in, and you help them to articulate the question they have. For instance, they're looking at the current goods in their storage, what they do have on the shelf, what they could use for the current production, and they want to kind of make an assumption how long they can run the production at full speed right now. Then the question is, they're looking at the standard report, but how can they tweak it? How much sophistication in terms of knowledge is needed to make it fit to their current question? And with Pyramid Analytics, with our platform, actually you can ask in natural language I want to see this by projects, because I want to see, do we have enough goods on the shelf to deliver the most urgent projects. And then the pyramid analytics engine powered by AI can actually swap the dimension you've been looking at and give you a complete new view without programming anything and without having to ask the BICC department again. So that is actually what the 20% challenge could what could solve the 20% challenge in the organizations. So in that dialogue, I explained to my friend, said, okay, the pyramid decision intelligence platform, and that's also for all of you, is actually bringing the really fundamental parts together in one platform. So the data prepping part, that is typically run by the IT or the BICC department. And then the business analytics part, speaking of the typical self-service swap, slice, and dice analytics part, but also of the corporate reporting part, but also of someone who just receives an alert on their phone via Teams or Slack. And then a third part that I haven't been talking about is actually the data science part, which becomes more and more relevant, actually mission critical in predicting where are we running short next, or what kind of price explosion do we have to deal with now, or what will it have in terms of an effect on our future projects, and do we have to change on our business model. All these kind of things can only be handled in a very quick way, in a speedy approach, once you bring it all together in one platform. And speaking of data prep, we also do some tricks here. We actually do shortcuts. And one of the biggest shortcut that we do is through our, it's called Piranha engine. We directly connect to the data warehouses that are in the organization. And we do a direct query approach that saves years of time of development and actually enables an organization from now to in a couple of days from zero to start with their first analytics with pyramid analytics. Because we can reuse what the companies have been investing in. We can reuse, for instance, their business logic they've been implementing into, for instance, the SAP Business Warehouse. We can reuse things like time-related hierarchies, as we all know from the analytics space, slowly changing dimensions. Usually you define this kind of way how the organization is dealing with it in your enterprise data warehouse. So why should you redefine it again on the analytics layer? From our perspective, that is an old-fashioned approach, and therefore we've chosen the more modern approach, using actually what is there. But not only with that, we're doing the trick. The next thing is we can blend all these different informations coming from, let's say, SAP BW plus another data warehouse, let's say Microsoft SQL, together. And the user approach is the same as you would have if you would move the data all out, but with a more robust and governed layer underneath, because you know the security from your enterprise data warehouse is not breached at all, because we're reusing the security without having another layer on top of that. And that all brings it to a very, very speedy approach. So we are really up to speed when it comes to time to insights, time to development. And then another thing that I've been actually witnessing a lot of times in the projects when I've been talking to data scientists, and I'm talking about my time prior to pyramid analytics. The data scientists have been sitting in their lab, and in the laboratory, they have been developing an artificial intelligence algorithm or a machine learning algorithm, something to predict the business outcomes in a more precise way than just a linear forecast or something like that. And the frustration with the data scientists was really high because they spent, let's say, a year into it, brought it to the users in the business, and they said, "Nah, we don't trust it. It's a black box. We won't use it." So in Pyramid Analytics, since it's all in one platform, we enable the data scientists to have that natural dialogue with the business department and actually present to the business department the early on version of an algorithm and ask them for feedback. Because one thing that data scientists very often struggle with is the business related purpose of a number or of a measure or of a sensor data. And of course, the business side knows that very well. So this kind of natural dialogue is usually happening in the meeting rooms when it escalates, when the data scientists are confronted with, no, we can't use it because the sensor data you used here is actually not the right one. And then the frustration is already high. Why not putting that all into a very natural conversation flow where you can pinpoint the data point and say, actually, dear Mr. Data Scientist, this one is one we should actually eliminate in the model because it's actually completely getting out of range, and it's actually not making us more precise with the prediction. Okay, wonderful. That is a couple of clicks away, and then that is cleared out, and we can continue with the process. Because if we talk about data science, it is about trying out, experimenting, and figuring out the fastest way through the forest when it comes to good predictions, good clustering algorithms, and so on. So actually, we can not only bring all these different aspects of your business together, but also make sure it's very governed, it's very compliant, and it has a natural flow of conversations in here. So again, we need to talk about decision intelligence, and that is decision intelligence is enabling everyone in your organization to have a foundation of knowledge where he or she can rely on and say, this is actually the data I need. I can self-service with my level of knowledge and analyze the numbers that I need to have at hands to actually make a smarter decision reliable on facts and data. So insights for everyone is the message, but the idea behind it is actually going far and beyond, because it's really about enabling also the rest of the organization to cross-check, is this decision actually good, without having to do another long-term project to actually watch that data out and double-check the foundation. So what are the benefits for the business? Of course, in general speaking, it helps you really driving more data-driven culture, and actually it helps you to simplify and taking out the complexity of the whole becoming data-driven approach. We see with our customers growing revenue because they figure out trends much earlier than they were with the traditional approach, because simply the delay between your having the data from one of your operational system, getting it into your data warehouse, and then not having that whole delay of another layer for the analytics on top of that, because you directly can access the data, and it can actually go very, very close to real time. And then, of course, because you're reducing the amount of time that you have to invest into the development, because everything in Pyramid Analytics is actually done in that one platform on a visual layer, and everybody can understand and reproduce what has been done. It is reducing the cost, the complexity, and the risk. And what we see with all our customers, it's definitely increasing the productivity, and it saves them time and money. And that is what is super important right now. I want transparency on all my plans. I want some transparency on my supply chain. I want some transparency actually on my goods that I can use to stay up productive, but I need it right now. I don't have time of another 3-year project to figure out what is actually going on. And that's where the decision intelligence approach of pyramid analytics really can help you. And we are actually best in class according to the analysts in that area of decision intelligence. So if we look into BARC, into the Gartner Critical Capability Survey, or in the latest Dresner survey, we always achieve the highest ranking when it comes to customer satisfaction, functionality, and completeness of vision. So in terms of really being able to serve the whole company. What does that mean to you? What I mean, okay, if I go and I'm interested into pyramid, do I have to replace everything I've done? No, we are actually huge fan of reusing and being complementary to your existing environment. So let's just speak it out. What's the elephant in the room? A lot of companies already have something like Tableau or Power BI. And what they do actually for those users, they do replicate the data and shaping it for their reports. With Pyramid Analytics, you can connect to your data warehouses and different sources, blend this data together in a very agile manner, and give Tableau and Power BI, for instance, access to that source. The beauty of it is everybody's talking the same. The beauty of it is you just have to maintain at one point, and that is actually at your core data warehouse. And that is definitely increasing the reliability of the numbers that you're using in your daily business. And with that, I would say let's take a look at Pyramid Analytics and into the live demo. Patrick?
Yes, hello. Thank you, Benjamin. Hello, good morning, everybody. So what we see when we see Pyramid Analytics, the first thing we see is a browser. That's the thing. Everything Pyramid Analytics does happens in the browser. It happens, within Chrome, within Edge. For example, it happens on your laptop, it happens on your tablet, it happens on your mobile phone. Because we do not have fat desktop clients or anything like that. We do not have any footprint on a local machine. We are always accessible through the browser. Through the browser doesn't mean cloud only. It definitely means we are working in the cloud. We are available in every public cloud. But nevertheless, 70% of our clients have deployments on premise. So you can have your own Pyramid server within your network, and then what you have isn't the public email address. You probably get an URL to a local IP in your network to get all this done. And what we have here is a pre-built dashboard for a manufacturing company. And if I want to take a look into critical alerts and all of those. So the first thing is I can switch off moderate alerts, and I see everything here is reacting by this filter. Now I filter it back. I can do the exact same thing with only seeing 1 month, for example, or seeing just one line of business. Everything works fine. That's easy. The part, and we come to that later, is we do all of this without any coding. This is absolutely no code to create this. You can easily configure this. The next thing you see, Pyramid offers, whenever you have a visual, it offers a couple of functions. And what I can see here is this crystal ball, for example. And this crystal ball tells me what I'm currently seeing, but in a statistical way. So it gives me the information. It gives me a condensed report of the statistical anomalies and key facts that I'm seeing here. So I see everything about machine hours per shift. So I have these 1, 2, 3, 4 shifts, and I get a written report that I can read, that I can analyze, and I do not have to interpret or misinterpret a line. To a certain extent, I get the exact information in this text as well, and I can reuse this text. I can reuse this text in a publication. I can send this out. I can use this to send emails out or anything like that. And if I switch my view from machine hours to batch cost, for example, and I just do the exact same thing, I get everything told in batch cost, and now I get every statistical information I need about batch costs instead of machine hours that I've done before. And the next thing I do, this is my dashboard. This is what I'm having right now. And as Ben already mentioned, change is constant, crisis is constant. There's always something happening, and if I want to react to certain developments, and I need an additional information, and I know it is in the same data source that is serving this dashboard, for example. What I can do now is I can write a change request and send this to my BICC, to my BI developers, and they will get me a new version of this dashboard, or they will get my change amendment to a certain extent. And depending on the agility of your organization, I can't tell for your specific organization, but I can tell you what I've seen in the field. This is something between 3 days and 3 months, depending on your organization and depending on the culture within your organization to a certain extent. And let's face it, 3 months ago, we hadn't had a war on hands in Europe, and we just learned a new Greek letter, Omicron, because that was the biggest news back then. But instead of writing a change request, what I can also do is I can just use a Pyramid chatbot, and I go in and say, just for now, show me this in raw data form. Show me this as a grid. And I'd say, okay, that's already fine, but I'm actually not interested in my formula categories. So please swap formula categories with defect types, because that was what I was interested in, and I want to see this by plant. I have it, and I have those informations here, and I can take a look at them. I said defect type burned. Okay, that's something I probably want to know a little bit more about. And now, as opposed to the crystal ball that condenses me what I'm seeing in statistical information, I can use explain, and it tells me what I'm currently not seeing. So if I say explain burned, what Pyramid does, it goes in, it runs. Technically, it's a reverse decision tree. It goes in and analyzes the construction of those data points around burned, and basically spreads out in all dimension and take a look what are the biggest drivers to this dimension. And I see, okay, there is a machine ADDI 900. And that thing is my biggest contributor to this defect, and I see that shift 2 is in 50%, almost 50% involved in those accidents. So I probably want to have a stern talk with the shift manager of shift 2. For ADD 100 right now. And this is something I'm not seeing anywhere on the dashboard right now. I'm not seeing machines here. This is an information I got. And what I can do, and what we mean by decision intelligence platform, I can already take it from here. I can go in and say, let's say Munich burned, and start a conversation. And I know, okay, burned in Munich with defective types. I want to talk to Calvin, because Calvin is a person involved in this plant, and I will say, I just say, hi Calvin, we need to talk about shift 2. That is something I want immediately. I want to get to the ground of that. I want to talk to the person on the ground in München, in Munich, to Calvin. I want to have a chat with him. To give him some context, I can also add a snapshot of what I'm currently seeing. So if Calvin then sees this message on his phone or on the instant messenger within the Pyramid platform, he can just click on the link and he sees the exact snapshot of what I'm seeing so far. If I do not expect Calvin to answer me today, if I answer tomorrow and I have certain things that are very data specific. I can also add a snapshot of the data. That doesn't mean we are copying your data warehouse. That only means we are pre-caching the probably, I would say, 300, 400 data points we are currently seeing on this dashboard, pre-caching them. So if Calvin goes in, he sees the exact state of the dashboard. I have seen it at the moment when I've asked those questions. That he's able to get context to my request, and it's easier seeing it. No matter even if a certain data point is maybe snowed over by a different ETL run that happened overnight, anything like that. I can submit this, and by submitting this, you see there is this small there's this small red triangle, and this is actually an indicator this data point is up for discussion. I mean, this can be a discussion because I want to talk about the issue at hand, so stuff burning at Munich. It can also be that I just don't trust this data point and I want to have a chat with the data steward about this data point. And if this is the case, anybody else using the platform anywhere, using this information, so a cross-section between defective type burned, planned Munich on batch cost, this person will see this data point is up for discussion and can chime into the discussion, or can decide based on what the person reads in the discussion, say, okay, there are people that are saying this data point might actually be an ETL hiccup. I just exclude it from my analysis, and then they just wash it out or wait until it's snowed over. And I can also see if there are discussions. I can basically go in and have those things at hand. Okay, so this is what we can do. And one thing Benjamin mentioned also, Pyramid is breaking down silos. So at another point, I mean, everything we see here comes from relational databases, and yes, the interaction is quite fine. But what if we have two absolute different technologies, for example? So in this case, I've built a dashboard that is, to a certain extent, a tech demo between two technologies, which are probably the absolute polar opposite to each other. So we have the SAP BW, the business warehouse, a very mature technology, long in the market, proven, it works fine, it's amazing. People have invested tons and tons of money in getting security right, getting hierarchies, getting KPIs in there, and it's a big asset in organizations. And we have the not so new kid on the block anymore, but still but still fairly new compared to SAP BW, certainly a teenager, Snowflake. On the other side, which is a SQL-based technology. So and in the cloud. So one thing on-premise MDX, the other thing SQL in the cloud. So two absolute different technologies. Nevertheless, if I want to highlight Yateco as a company, what I'm seeing here is I am executing a query on Snowflake, and I get results on Snowflake according to the highlight of Yateco. I can do the other way around as well. So if I'm asking Snowflake if I highlight printers and scanners, for example, what happens is I get the execution of a BW query on BW, and I realize, okay, the Danish fish trading company is my largest customer for printers and scanners, for example, and this is what I'm getting. And again, all those technologies, the crystal ball, the chatbot, they work on any technology. They work right out of the box. If I just go in and here they show its grid, for example, I get this information as a grid. And yeah, same thing. If I say swap customer with, I don't know, let's say order currency, I get them swapped by order currency. And again, still the interaction between both technologies work. And one thing we do very seldom in those kind of webinars, but I want to do it today, is I want to take let's take a slight look under the kimono here, and let's say how it's built. So if I close this, I drop back in this case, I drop back into the development side of of this dashboard. And to make sure to get this interactivity between these two grids done, all I have to say is I have this interaction picker, and I just draw an arrow between those. Job done. That's everything I had to do. Since these are two different technologies, everything is not right. There's a small asterisk. I need to do model mapping, and I have configured a model mapping that tells me the difference between these two models. And I'm saying, okay, what is what on which side of the fence? And once Pyramid knows this, it knows, okay, a customer means on SAP BW means column XY on Snowflake. The interactivity just works out of the box. And if I go back to the dashboard, yeah, again, this interactivity just works out of the box. And it's that simple to get this. And with that, I would personally like to hand over back to Benjamin.
Thank you, Patrick. Fantastic demo, and I think it exposed to the audience that what we mean when we talk decision intelligence platform is definitely speed, performance, but also speed to insights, because you just exposed how quickly we are in kind of modifying what you see already, but also kind of connecting different sources. So thank you very much. I think it really exposed very well on what it is that we can be doing. I think what we will have after this conversation is actually you guys out there will think, okay, but I have a different environment. Our environment has, let's say, 20 data warehouses or even 30 data warehouses, or we do have very often coming in additional spreadsheets from Excel, and we need to use them together with the data from SAP BW. Well, let me take it this way. That is something we are very happy to do for you and to demonstrate for you. And therefore, my colleagues out there like Ulrich and Pelle and Per are the contact persons for your local markets. They might have provided their details already in the chat. And please reach out to them and ask them for a short round of discussion just to figure out if there is actually something we can do in a quicker manner, on a more governed way, or actually at a broader scale than you currently are able to execute things in time. Because as we said, it is a time of urgency, and we have to find answers much quicker than we used to do it, let's say 3 years ago. So with that saying, thank you everyone for attending this Lunch and Learn session presented to you by Pyramid Analytics. Thank you, Patrick, for running the demo, and have a great rest of the day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.